What's up, Vaz, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be another one in the series where I show how to improve existing patterns, and this one is all about sleeves. I've received your comments and we're going to be addressing some issues that sleeves typically have in terms of fit. Now in this sample here that I'm trying on, you can tell that it is tight around that bicep area, so that's one issue we're going to be addressing. I'm going to show you guys how to solve that, and then you can't really raise your hand or hug somebody properly, and as well as having too much ease on the sleeve head. So if you'd like to see how I resolve these issues on a basic sleeve pattern, make sure to keep on watching. I'm going to be showing you how to make the changes on the pattern and then test the adjusted pattern at the end of this video so you see what a better fit looks like. With that being said, let's get into the tutorial. To get the fit right, I'm going to go in to measure the following dimension. The first is the cap height, which is the distance from the top of your shoulder to your bicep line. Your bicep line is that line where the sleeve side seam and your side seam meet under your arm. That I've just tied a rope across so you can clearly see where that is. So I've measured mine was 5.25 inches, and I'm going to compare that measurement to my pattern. Next up, I'm measuring around my bicep. This measurement is actually what affects the tightness around your arm and when you try to hug someone as well. You want to have this measurement and add enough ease to allow for movement. Once I have that dimension written out, I'm going to measure my arm side, or the sleeve cap length, which is the total length of the top of the sleeve. And on the body is essentially when you measure around the top of your arm, like so. That measurement, when you work with on your pattern, you want to have ease incorporated in that, and that ease, once it's stitched into the bodice, is what actually allows you to have movement. Now starting off with the first issue, which is when the sleeve is too tight around the bicep, I have my pattern here, so I'm going to measure the pattern to see if this pattern actually has enough ease to fit around my bicep. So there's clearly not enough, so I'm going to go in to add some paper on the sides so I can extend the sleeve sideways. The bicep line on a well-fitting sleeve pattern should be your bicep measurement plus 2 inches or 5 centimeters. That additional measurement is what would allow you to have movement when you're like flexing your muscle or when you're trying to hug someone. So I'm extending my sleeve sideways like so on the back side and on the front side. I think when I did my first basic pattern, I didn't really add a lot of ease, so a lot of you guys actually came back with the feedback of, oh, the sleeve was really tight, it wasn't comfortable to wear. So this is what you need to do. You need to add ease in your pattern, not just sleeves, in all of your patterns when you're working with woven fabric. The second issue we're going to be addressing is adjusting the sleeve cap height, which was a measurement that I showed you guys earlier on in this video. Now I'm going to measure the one on this pattern here. This one looks really tall, but let's just measure it to be sure. So this one here is about 7 inches, which is really tall. Mine on my body is 5.25, so I'm going to remove the excess sleeve cap measurement. Now that measurement should be your measurement plus about a 1/4 inch to allow for movement as usual. But on this pattern, it's clearly too tall, so I'm drawing a horizontal line that cuts through the cap like so. You want to keep the line above your notches, and I'm actually going to be slashing this line. The aim is to get rid of the excess through this line. If you want to make your cap taller, you can add in the extra measurement through this line as well. Once you have that division there, you have freedom to reduce or increase the cap height measurement. So I'm just going to carry my tape measure to ensure that it's at the desired height I wanted. I'm aiming for 5.5 inches with the additional 1/4 inch like movement ease in there. Once I've taken away the measurement I don't want, I'm going to tape down the top to the bottom like so. But you can see we now have this funny looking edge, and that we want to adjust or make it smooth or rounded. So I'm placing some paper underneath, and I'm going to just add some tape to ensure that both layers are connected. And once I have that taped together, I'm going to be connecting the bottom edge to the top edge of the sleeve on the right and on the left hand side, so you have a fully rounded sleeve head on your pattern. With that drawn in, I'm just cutting away the extra paper that I don't need around the sleeve head of my pattern. Once I have that shaved off, I know we've addressed the second issue, which is when the cap height is too tall. The final fit issue that I'm going to be tackling in this video is when you have too much ease on your sleeve head. This can result in having a lot of gathers or puffiness on the top of your sleeve. And I'm just going in here to measure around the sleeve head pattern the way it is now, so I can compare it to my own arm side measurement. You want this curved edge to be your arm side measurement plus about 2 centimeters or 0.7 inches. You want extra measurement there because that has to be eased into the bodice. To be even sure, you can take each side of your bodice pattern and compare the arm curve to the corresponding side on the sleeve. You want to have a little extra measurement on the top, but not too much. So once I reach that top edge, I'm going to mark how much extra is left on the sleeve. And once I do this for both sides, I have a clear amount of how much ease the sleeve pattern has. The general rule of thumb is you want to have either 2 centimeters or 0.7 inches that you're going to ease into the armhole of your bodice. After taking down those measurements, I'm going to measure and see how much ease I have on my pattern. And from measuring with my tape, I've noticed I need to reduce mine by half. I have about 4 centimeters or roughly an inch there, and I want to try and reduce that by half. So to reduce the ease on a sleeve head, I'm going to draw a line that cuts horizontally from the top to the bottom like so. It stops roughly 5 inches or 13 centimeters below the bicep line, and I'm going to angle the line to the side seam. This I'm going to do on this side of the pattern and repeat or mirror the same thing on the other side. So draw that line from the same distance vertically and the same distance horizontally, so whatever changes we make on the left we make on the right. Now I'm just going in here to draw in the angled line on the other side like so, and I'm going to slash from the top and turn it to the side so I can pivot the pattern in such a way that I can reduce the excess ease on top of the sleeve head. Through this slash point, I'm going to be reducing by 1 centimeter or roughly 1/4 inch along the sleeve head alone. I want to try and maintain the same dimension on the bottom area, which is just around where my elbow measurement is. I don't want to lose measurement there. Just reduce at the top, tape it down to the existing pattern on the middle, and then repeat the same thing on the other side. That way I'm not tampering with the cap height measurement. I'm also just removing the excess ease along the sleeve head. So once I'm done making the changes, I know there is going to be a slight difference in shape along the sleeve head because there has been some movement there. So like we did earlier on, I'm going to go in and smoothing the edges. So this I will do along the side seam like so. So I have a clear line to work with. And once I do this on both sides, I'm going to go to the sleeve head and add some paper in these corners here so I can even it out. Now, once I have the paper taped in and secured in place, the aim is to have a line that cuts through both points. So a point that sits in the middle. So when I'm drawing the line from the top of the sleeve, it just cuts a little bit away from that edge on top, and then it connects back to the bottom. This I'm going to repeat for both sides of my sleeve head, so I have a smooth, well-rounded edge on top of my sleeve. Now that is the final fit issue we're going to be resolving in this video, but please leave a comment down below if you want us to tackle more fit issues in garments, in sewing patterns, and we'll make that happen in this series. Now I'm trimming off the excess paper along the top edge like so, and once I have that trimmed away, I'm going to just measure everything again to be sure I'm happy with the final outcome. So measure that sleeve cap length like I'm doing here, measure the cap height, and measure the bicep line measurement just to be sure that it has enough ease and I am happy with it before cutting out the excess pattern paper on the sides. Now this is what my altered or adapted sleeve pattern is looking like. Now this I'm going to cut onto some fabric because I always like to test my patterns. That's like the ultimate way to check if it actually fits on the body in the way that I want. So I'm going to pin this on some fabric and then cut and stitch it so we can try and compare to see if we've actually made any changes and if we like the outcome so far. So I just grabbed some fabric from my storage and pressed it out, pinned the pattern onto that. I'm just going to be doing half of a bodice and one sleeve. I don't need to cut a whole bodice since this is just a quick test. On the sleeve head where the ease is, I'm going to be stitching with the loosest stitch because I want to gather in that ease, and the gather is going to be so gentle that when it's stitched onto the garment, it would be barely visible. I'm sewing in the side seams with right sides facing each other. Coming back to the sleeve head, I'm just pulling the thread slightly to just gather in the ease on top of the sleeve. Once I have that in like this, I'm going to take it to my ironing board and I'm actually going to be ironing the gathers. The point is to keep all of the ease on top of the sleeve and stitching the rest of the sleeve into the bodice of your shirt, your dress, or whatever garment that you are fitting the sleeve into. You do want easing there because the ease is going to allow for movement, for you to hug, for you to raise your hands. With the iron, I'm just pressing along the top edge like so. So I have a rounded shape that looks like this. This would also help me to fit the sleeve a lot easier into the bodice. This I've just pinned across in such a way that I have side seam of the sleeve matched to the side seam of the bodice, top edge of the sleeve matched to the shoulder line, and I'm going to be sewing the sleeve into the bodice on a 1 centimeter seam allowance, spreading the ease around the top edge so that place has, movement around the shoulder area. Once I make it to the end, I secure my stitch with a back stitch. I'm going to press this on my iron. You can already see that the bulkiness on top of the sleeve is a lot less compared to the first pattern or the first sample that I made. I'm going to press everything down, put it on the mannequin to check if I like the outcome, and there is such a huge difference just from it being on the mannequin in terms of how the sleeve sits into the bodice. But just so assured that this actually fits on a human being's body, I'm going to try this on just to see if I am happy with the outcome. Now, from the first, where it's a lot easier to glide on because there's a lot more ease around the bicep area, it doesn't feel as tight. That was the first thing that I noticed. And then on the sleeve head, there are some very gentle gathers, but that is ease that would allow me to move my arm in this garment. Here's a before and after comparison so you can see like the clear difference in terms of how the sleeve fits around the sleeve head, around how it fits around your bicep as well. That way you are able to really actually move your arm, hug people, function normally when you wear your sleeve. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. This was a very, very fun experiment for me to do. I always like learning and understanding different ways to improve the fit of garments. If you did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up, and until my next one, have a good morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are. Bye.